Here we go. Okay, we're back on.
So did you guys want to hear what my experience?
Yeah. Let's hear what you had to say, Lori.
Sorry, Haya.
Go ahead.
If you and Brian want to hear it, if you don't, I don't have to talk about it. But
oh no, I do. I want to hear it. Hello.
Okay, well, so I set up an account, my trust account, a private business account with the USPS, which is, how do you say that word, Brian? Is it suzerainty?
Suzerainty, yeah.
Suzerainty. Okay, so it's the same way with the U.P.U, how it works with the USPS, is that because the rest of the world uses postal codes as opposed to zip codes, their postal codes are based on actual physical location, whereas this system, because it's pretty lawless, uses these different, business retail mailing systems in different areas that have to deal with zones. So in any case, I set this up and they granted they assigned, so they gave rights away to my trust to be able to do all these things. And I was looking at them, and it's really, a lot of this stuff is really complex, right? And I wasn't sure I wanted to do all of it, but there are some things that I really want to do. And like, for example, instead of having to go to a post office because the location where I'm at is, and the business that I have is considered actually a private business that has the capability of, operating fully as a full post office like the one down the road. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is the system that they have for sending actual communications to these businesses privately. And it's a real interesting process. Also, how they're tied into the private side of banking is really profound. So for me, I realize that everyone's walk is their own private walk with the creator. I just know that I've been being pushed in this area. And the more I look further, like, thank you, Brian, again, for the whole idea. It took me a long time being in your group to even comprehend what an estate was, let alone the difference between administering and ministering an estate. And when wisdom finally gave me the knowledge, it's like, it was such a huge epiphany to recognize what that means in my relationship to this estate that I've inherited, but have to take control over because other people are administrating it because I inherited lies and a lack of knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of that is being able to do from the office of the president of the state that I have, is being able to do these correspondences and not necessarily always in physical, tangible form. So although not everyone, I don't think everyone's inclined to follow what I've been inclined to do, this is definitely something that for me, in order to take future steps that I want to take, that this is something that I've been being called to do. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to share.
That sounds great. Hey, Lori, is that got anything to do with paying the utility bills for the entity?
Okay, so depending on what capacity that you're operating in, that's recognized. See, a lot of people want to run away from the system. And what I recognized at one point was like, everything's divine, because they found that, Moses found the holograph of the operating system, and it's being ran by people who are doing, they're enriching themselves unjustly, right? They're not actually teaching the real law for those who want to learn. Instead, they're just out here as a whipping post, torturing everyone, instead of saying, hey, look, this is actually what you're supposed to be doing, that these are this is where you're supposed to be. And maybe that's a spiritual thing. I give thanks because there are a lot of godless, lawless people. But as far as the estate, you're talking about the estate, which is an organization I put like my estate, I put my sweat equity into it. Okay. That general partnership that Brian was talking about, they have also invested in it because it's what they do with the actual blood when they take it, how their investments in it. So, but it's also, if it's connected properly, goes back to the estates of all of our ancestors. And for me, I liken that to when it says, for those who don't follow my commandments, I will curse them up to 3 and 4 generations. But for those who follow the law of my commandments, I will bless them up to 1,000 generations. So for me, that's how this is being shown to me. So as far as being able to pay the debts of the entity, that's a really complex idea because, it used to be prior to, the Exodus is getting ready to happen again. And when we look at the patterns in the Tanakh, right before the Exodus happened, they went to their neighbors and they took all the gold and silver. Okay. So that's happened here to us. Okay. And so in the form of a contract, one of the laws of contract is there actually has to be real consideration, right? And that goes all the way back to the Bible. When you start talking about the 3, even then they were hypothecating money when you talk about the different shekels, right? Which was silver, hypothecating. And so because there isn't any consideration that can be given that they can process, they make these contracts in the form of a trust, which then you get into negotiable instruments, right? And so the way that is set it out is the outer court, the people who operate from a position of a debtor, who operate under the public charitable trust entity, unless they've figured out how to encapsulate it and operate in a different capacity. It's the military script. But when you get further behind that and you're able to take on, like, say, the executorship through taking certain actions, then what happens is learning how to get on the inside system, which is literally like they have private banking that all these different organizations are connected through: the Department of Homeland Security, United States Customs and Immigration Services, the IRS, the Treasury, the Post Office. And so what happens by handing over the power of attorney with a blank endorsement, right? Whether it's with a mortgage or it's a bank account or whatever the hell it is, whether
Or
it's
voter
hiring an
registration.
attorney. Yeah, all of it. So what that does is that just allows for them to basically, what they do is, because they are actually administering the estate, what they do is, so the IRS are the bookkeepers for the Treasury, and what happens is that they go in and they set up accounts there, and through the post office they're able to do mail forwarding. And if you read, like, I was reading a publication, I think it's 220, where it talks about, depending on whoever is allowed to do presentation in the tax court, and it lists off the different types of people in their credentials, how if they're acting in a fiduciary capacity, that they can actually act as if they're the taxpayer themselves. So that's what they're doing. And so then they're able to reroute who's getting paid. Well, and really, to be honest, like, if they're handling my family's estate and I haven't come to the point of fully being able to operate, I mean, it makes sense to me that they should be paid. The problem is they've cut out the heir to benefit themselves.
Lori,
Yeah?
can I back you up for a minute?
Yeah, please jump in anytime.
You were talking about private banking. Okay. Let me give you one of the experiences I've had on that. I don't know if you were around at the time or whatever when my house burned or whatever, but a lot of people gave donations. And the donation system was set up by someone I know that lives up on Canada. Okay. They have a totally different banking system. So anyway, all the donations went to her. And I've got to say, gosh, bless everybody on Facebook, social media, because I probably got more aid from them than I did from the people around me. It was pretty close. But anyway, when we struggled with this for a couple weeks as far as how to write a check and how to get it to me. I finally got the check, and unfortunately, you took it to like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or whatever. They all want to grab like 38% of the check. And I'm like, this is crazy.
It's terrible.
And I remembered private banking. And this check was written from Canada. So I looked up private bankers in my area, and I found a Canadian private banker. Where was he? He was at one of the big banks. And I went up to like the third floor to where his office was. He had a tiny little 10 by 15 office, and he sat down and he cashed it for me, charging like 6 or 8%. And I was like, wow, this is a totally different world of banking.
Yeah, actually, Brian, I'm glad that you had support. I didn't know you then, but I would have tried to support you because you're worthy of it. But so what's interesting to me is, okay, so I got an account with the United States Custom and Immigration Service because I am an actual victim of identity theft. And setting up that account, I was able to go in and lock up the social security number. Well, what I found was that these different agencies, through capacity, you can lock up the credit bureaus from looking at it. So I tested it and I couldn't get into the one credit bureau. I couldn't get the free report because, like I said, I'm in the process of rebutting all the lies and presumptions about this mortgage. Okay. And really just trying to learn how the system is actually set up and what my relationship is to it so that I can fulfill the will of my father. So anyway, so I went back in and I turned it off, and then I got the report and I called them up, and I was trying to set up an account with the IRS to be able to do the taxes for the estate. And I was unable to set up the account, and I couldn't figure out why. So I went into the credit report and I wrote down the information, and then I called them up. And it turns out that the bank, and this is where I was talking about that DACA agreement, right? The bank actually stands in with the power of attorney and does the secured party agreement with the mortgage, the United States, the USDA.
Oh my
And
God.
they're the ones.
Oh my God. I can't believe that. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out, so they're like, well, if you're going to try to get this number with the IRS, you got to have this one number. Cause I was like, well, I have
Is
this
it the
mortgage
98?
number. So when I called the credit.
Is it the 98 number?
No, it's the number that's given to the American Banking Association, the member of the American Banking Association. And they're the ones who basically create an account with the Federal Reserve, right? And they take these, based on Senate Document 43, they take these. It's really crazy what these people do. I mean, it's brilliant. I got to
Oh,
tip
you
my
think
hat
that's
to
the
them.
private banking number,
But,
the 86 number? Is that what that is? The 86 number, the private banker?
Okay, well, 86 is just the first two numbers of an EIN. All that is it tells you which campuses issues the number. It's the numbers that come after that matter. And it's also how you structure the organization and what you tell them, basically. To probate. They just witness your acts, basically. And they're like, okay, here you go. But this is different. I'm not talking about the IRS at this point. At this point, I'm talking about what the credit union, who is standing in because they're taking the fiduciary role of the estate, and they go into an agreement with the Department of Agriculture, and they put themselves as the secured party creditor. And so what was interesting is talking to them, I'm like, wait a second, you're not giving me the entire number. And he was like, well, you're just a tenant. That's what he said to
Oh.
me. I was like, oh, I'm not the tenant. First of all, number one, I'm the entitlement holder.
They were
I am the
truncating
heir
the
and the
number.
living benefit.
Were they truncating the number, only putting
Yeah.
a portion of it?
Well, they were just giving the port. Okay. So in a membership association, basically, again, we get into this general partnership because I didn't do a special private deposit. So they are acting in fiduciary capacity. So then the guy went on to tell me that I was a tenant, and I was like, oh, you're wrong, number one, because I'm the living beneficiary.
Yeah.
I'm the living beneficiary, number one,
Mhm.
and I'm the heir to the estate, and I'm the executor. But I'm not going to deal with you with this. But now I know. I said, maybe I need to tell me, how do I set up an account to to be a part of this credit bureau? And he was like, well, you'd have to call this number and you'd have to be eligible. And I was like, well, I do have a business that's eligible. May I have the number, please? So then I was like, okay, well, what is going on with the whole ABA number, right? The ABA number, because
Mhm.
everyone's like the American Bar Association, the American Banking Association. So and then you get into like the state charter and the federal charter. And what's interesting is in the background, what they're doing, basically what I've realized is with the power of attorney, right? Because I inherited lies and I suffer for a lack of knowledge. I'm not going to die, but was what they're able to do in being able to actually act as if they are the heirs themselves and act
Because
in
we're
that
legally
capacity.
handicapped,
And
we're legally
no,
disabled.
because okay, well, for me, I can only speak for me. They
Legally,
listed me as actually dead. No, they listed me as dead,
oh my
not civilly dead, but
God.
like dead, like fetal death certificate and everything, like dead as a doornail. And they took the blood to prove it in the footprints. And then they did their little magic trickery with their fraudulent conveyance of language. But there's always that plausible deniability because humans make mistakes, blah blah blah. So correcting the record is a really interesting one because every doorway that I've gone to so far, besides the post office, trying to get on the inner circle, I'm like trying to get in. They're like block, block.
Mhm.
So I'm starting to come around the different sides. I'm figuring it out though.
Mhm.
But yeah. So I don't know what your thoughts are on all this, hire Brian, but it's been quite an interesting tale.
Well, I was reading a thing that Malika Dulce had written, and it was about getting off the tax roll with your property. And I have a timeshare, which when I called the tax assessor, they said timeshares are just like houses and land. You still have to pay property tax. I go, well, if that's the case, then I would like to have my portion as private property. Because I've been paying land tax for
Okay,
18 years.
so part of how that's done, this is what I've learned. Is Brian still there?
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, so what I recognize, first of all, county is a subdivision of the state. So
Mhm.
whenever the mom and dad apply for the birth certificate in the hospital, it's basically like we're disinheriting you, and the church adopts them because it's a charitable act. And so then everything that is put in the name of that particular general partnership that Brian and I were speaking about,
Mhm.
what they do then is they have their agents, real estate agents, because it's considered commercial,
Yeah.
even though it says you're not to sell your sons and daughters into be commerce. They look at it when it's registered in the county because whoever's doing the mortgage novation swap, credit swap, they record it and they make it as if it's considered an actual donation. So then what they do is the county takes all of those negotiable instruments and they fold them up and they claim it as collateral to get a loan. So they go to the federal window, and the federal window goes in and basically they take all of the money from the different estates and they come back, right? And now the county has this loan and they say, phew, you're the tenant, you got to pay this. You got to pay us
Right,
because we got to pay
exactly.
it back to the estates. Right,
Yeah, 'cause
Brian?
on the
Right,
deed it
Brian?
says,
Is that your take on it?
on the deed, it says we're joint tenants. On the deed, the actual deed. I'm like, oh man, I gotta get this deed changed.
Yeah, and that's what they do. They basically take the present life estate that's fee absolute, and what they do then is they swap it for a statutory warrant deed. It's called a novation.
Hmm.
And what they do then is they switch it around, and they say, we're the beneficiaries, you're the co-trustee. Because the grantor never actually expressed the intent in the will of like naming an actual beneficiary. And also in that contract, what I found in this one is that they write in a clause that says that you're waiving the right to use it as a homestead. So, I mean, it's just one big
Well, they also
spider
tried to
trap
get me this last time when I went to
just
Tahoe last week. They said, oh, by the way, we have the afterwards, when your children, when you die, if something happens to you, your children, we have the right to life, whatever. I go, right to life, what are you talking about? They want to be able to assign it to my children without my children being on the deed. And they said, oh no, we reserve the right for, it's forever, for your timeshare is forever. It keeps going passed down to your kids and your grandkids and forever. That's how they're like trying to, make their money. And they
Yeah.
go, if you were to
Well,
put,
Yeah,
that goes back.
they go, if you were to put this
That
in
goes
your
back to what
trust,
I've
then
said.
they have to pay all of those maintenance fees for life. What the heck? What were you saying, Bart?
what were you
That
saying,
goes back.
Brian?
I said that goes back to what I said about everything being established basically as a partnership. And so they're going to go ahead after you pass away, and they're going to decide, who's going to hold liability. It's all about liability. And so what are they going to do? They'll just the assigns will be your children. That's what they do.
For the co-trustee, right, Brian? Not
Right.
as the
Well,
heir, but they're gonna list them as the co-trustee in that trust that they have set up.
that's
So
why I
that they're gonna
say
have to,
with all this stuff that we do, oh, do this and do this and do that. No, you know what? Just fucking resign. Get away from it. Walk away from it. Say, you know what? I am not going to be the agent for your organization anymore. Go listen to the song by Johnny Rivers back in the 50s. They took away your name and gave you a number. He told you right there. Secret agent, man.
well, Brian, I respect what you're saying in some sense, but here's the thing, okay? What about the fact that when I bring you into the land of your inheritance, you are to drive them out? Because really, when we get down to the land, okay, and I know this for a fact, that they're not talking about the house. Okay, they're actually talking about our bodies, right? And that's scriptural. And that's why they can drag a man or woman in. So to just say, okay, well, you can just have this, like, I don't know about that. Like for me, like, here's the thing, I made mistakes. I need to fix my mistakes. And I'm hoping what's fair, just, and right will ripple effect after that. For example, I made a mistake, which is completely lawful and legal. And I am going to correct it and make it very clear who I am and what my intentions were, because that's my will. Was not to make a gift to the county of or the state of, but rather to use it as a homestead that my creator brought me to this land. He literally called me thousands of miles away from my home and put me right here, and I worked for it, and he gave it to me. And it wasn't for a county of, because they're not my family. These people are, I appreciate what they're doing, but they're not my nation. Washington is not my nation. I'm from the nation Everett. That's where I hail from. So, you know, like, I'm not just going to let them claim it, and I'm not just going to walk away from it, because spiritually, I don't feel that that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm not going to fight about it because I don't need to fight. The reality is that I was the one who signed as the grantor, and I made a mistake and an error, and it needs to be corrected, basically. And they
You know
can,
what?
and they
It
can't
worked.
force me to bow down and pay taxes to their god Baal. They can't do it. I'm
Well,
not going to do it.
if you're using their services, yeah, you can. Absolutely, they can.
What
And
services are those?
this goes back to you're talking about a private banker earlier. We were discussing that. And for instance, if somebody wants to get a home or get property, you don't have to go to freaking like whatever Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whoever to go and apply for a freaking loan. You can go to a private banker. There are private people who will freaking finance it with you, and you have an agreement with them, and it's totally out of the hands of US Inc.
Right. Well, okay, here's another idea. What about the fact that we actually are a bank? That we were actually given an entire state with resources that we're supposed to learn how to, and this is, again, you know, like the Messiah, he didn't just come to be
Well,
served.
that's what the Internal Revenue Code says. That's what IRC says, is that you are a bank, which means that by signing things, by agreeing to these accounts and this and that, means that you have 100% disclosure and know what this is all about. Is that true? No, absolutely not.
um I mean, full disclosure was not given, correct?
Full disclosure doesn't have to be given. And that's one of the things that pisses me off with people. They freak out. They're like, well, this isn't valid. This isn't valid because there's no full disclosure. Okay, well, here's my question. Did you ask for disclosure? Because if you didn't ask for
Yeah,
it, they're
right.
not required to give it.
I know
Bottom
that.
line.
Okay, so how about this? I brought that up because I know that makes you mad. That is funny. How about this? I made a mistake. Forgive me. This is my will. This is my intention. This contract is unconscionable. And I want to do what's fair, right, and just, according to my creator.
All right.
And who's going to dispute that? I mean, seriously, because here's the thing. I do have pure intentions. I do things in good faith for good reason and for good cause.
Mhm.
And I'm moving slowly, seeking wisdom to do it properly. For example, when I talked about the people who are actually administering the state and have been, who knows how long for my family? I don't know when my family actually gave it up. I just know that I'm here
All
to
right.
kind of
Let me cut in here. All right.
okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah, please.
There was a conversation that was had with a retired judge a while ago. And what he said was, you need to unlatch from the system. The problem is you have latched yourself. And it's taken me a while to find it. But there's something called the doctrine of lashes.
I know
And
about that doctrine.
it's
Go
not
ahead.
it's not spelled the way you would think latches, but it's the doctrine of lashes. And what it is that when you find out that harm has been done and things aren't organized the way they're supposed to be organized, that you don't have 5 or 10 years to freaking take care of it. You need to take care of it as soon as you can. If you wait 5 years or so, That means what? That means that now you have agreement. You have agreement through it, through your
Okay, so I
silence.
have a question there though. Okay. So here's the thing. It says in the scripture that the Spirit awakens us to truth in divine timing according to the will of the Father. So who was a man to determine that like some people, those who slumber on their rights have none. Okay. There are those who don't want to take
That's a
action.
doctor. That's a
But
doctrinal lashes right there.
what's that?
Slumbering on your freaking rights.
What'd
That's
you-
the doctrine of lashes right there.
Right. Okay. So here's the thing though. In order to take proper action, it says over and over again to not be hasty and to seek wisdom before taking action. And so for me, if anyone ever wants to say, oh, well, you waited too long, I'm going to be like, I don't think so. Because I've been doing my due diligence to learn everything that I can to take the correct action that's both lawful and legal. And
Well,
it's been an extensive research.
I mean,
It really, and you know this, Brian, because
the,
you're
the,
very wise. You spent a lifetime learning a lot of knowledge that a lot of people will never even get to, Brian. And that's
oh,
just a reality,
I could get
you
into
know.
details here that, yeah. Here's the thing. Did it take you a year or two to figure this out, or did you wait 5 years?
Well, I'm a couple years in, but I gave up everything to learn. I stopped working. I basically
Here's
gave
the
up
answer. Can I
everything.
give you the answer right now? I'll give you the answer
Well,
right
you
now.
can give me your answer. Okay.
Oh, I know that it's worked. I mean, hey, you'll know them by their fruits, right? So I've seen the fruits from what I've experienced. Resign, quit. I am not freaking being a party to your freaking fraud. I am not being a freaking agent for your organization. It's that easy. People don't understand it's that easy. Everybody wants the freaking fun stuff. They want the sexy stuff. You got to sign stuff at a 45-degree angle. You got to freaking send it to this. You know what? It's easier than that.
Wait, did you call that stuff fun and sexy? I wouldn't call any of that fun and sexy. I think it's
No,
the furthest thing from it.
but that's what people
I mean, I
want.
like
People,
purple.
but people want the fun, sexy stuff. They want the excitement. They don't want the
I
simple.
don't think. How can anyone think that this stuff is fun and exciting? I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I know that the creator only disciplines his children, his offspring, who he loves. Okay, I'm one of them. But I wouldn't say that any of this stuff is fun and sexy or anything. I mean, like, I'm gonna do what I have to do, but like, there's a bunch of other stuff I'd rather be doing than reading IRS codes and postal codes and probate codes and reading
Fun and
equity and
fun
freaking
and
private banking and come on, really?
fun,
People out
fun
there
and sexy.
nursing and
Fun and sexy. Oh, I'm going to become a
oh
private
yeah.
banker. Oh, I'm going to become a postmaster general. I'm going to become. No, it's not about all that crap. You just quit. As you know what? I have freaking posted, I don't know how many times, the Law of Nations to people. Go read the Law of Nations. I know it's like almost an 800-page book. Go. So I say instead, read the preamble or read the preliminaries for the Law of Nations. The preliminaries of the Law of Nations will wrap your mind around it. All you have to do is you decide, you know what, I'm not a part of it. The Law of Nations says you have the right to quit. You have the right to quit. You know what? I'm not going to be part of your crap anymore. You guys go ahead and do what you're doing. I'm going to go my way. I'm going to follow my creator. That's simple. It's so easy, but people don't want the easy stuff. They want the difficult stuff.
Yeah, but don't you have to pay taxes and stuff?
Pay taxes on what? It's all
Your
how you
house?
do your contracts. You have to realize. I need to grab my book, maybe.
We only got
Everything
4 minutes.
I wrote it out, and I'm like, come on. I
4
wrote out
minutes.
my stuff and I was like, oh my God, this is TikTok. This is all TikTok. It's all about T-O-K or T-O-C. I mean, at the end, it's really about contracts. And it's all about how you set your life up. It's the contracts of your life. You have to set them up correctly. I don't have a
What?
mailbox. I don't have a mailbox. I have no bills. I have nothing. You, it,
How did you
and
not have to
it's
pay your
not easy to
electricity
do
bill? How do you not have to pay your electricity bill?
because I contracted with my freaking person I rented from that it will be freaking taken care of by them and not me.
Oh, gotcha.
Well,
Well,
I
we have
think it's amazing
3
that you've
minutes
been able
left,
to
guys.
figure out your path, Brian. I appreciate the fact that the path that you've been called on, because you've helped so many, and I really have a lot of agape for you. But again, this is my private walk, and let me tell you something, just for the record, in and on the record, nothing about what I've been studying or researching do I find sexy. Okay, I wouldn't
There's
even
no
do it.
there's no
I-
record here. There's no record here. We're not in court.
No, but I'm saying to you, as my friend in Haya, that I'm not doing this stuff to be like to do anything. Like I'm only doing it because I feel spiritually led every day, and that's just what I'm called to do. You know, like
Well, I
there's
was. I think I was spiritually led to freaking discover all this shit. And I'll tell you what, life is beautiful now. And the way you get treated, everybody says, oh, they want to teach you how to freaking behave in court. No, it's not about how to behave in court. It's about how to not get dragged into court.
hallelujah
That,
on that one, brother.
that's what it's about. I have been freaking pulled over twice in the last year. No driver's license, no insurance, no registration. Have I been in court? Not even once. No court.
Yeah, I love that. That's
And I've walked away and not been jailed every time.
They're
yeah.
inviting
I mean,
me
you're not
to
under.
get on the calendar. I got a letter. They invited me to get on their calendar.
Well, then you've got some things you need to put in place so that you don't get on their calendar.
All right. Well, I'll be talking to you guys about that. But anyways, we have 1 minute left, and I just want to thank you both for being here. And it's been a fun little fireside chat. We're going to have another group meeting tomorrow. If you guys are available, tomorrow's Friday night, isn't it? Yeah. Maybe Brian
Yeah.
would love to be there, I hope, and Lori. But anyways, I just want to thank you guys for your
I love Lori. Lori's one
Oh,
of my favorite peeps, and so are you.
I love you guys too. I really tonight. Thank you. You like made my night. Hey,
When
Haya,
I
Yeah.
when I
hit me
heard
up for
Lori's
the.
when I heard
Oh,
Lori's
go ahead.
voice, I was like, oh, I know who that is.
We have less than a
Hit me
minute.
up on that territorial jurisdiction challenge that Lex did, and then you don't have to go to their court. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, hit me up. Okay, I love you guys. Thanks. I look forward to tomorrow.
Have a great night, you
Y'all
guys.
willing.
Love you. Thanks.
Hey, Lori,
Love you guys.
Lori,
Yeah?
check out Orlando Steve.
Orlando Steve. Okay.
Yep.
I'll do that. Okay, thanks. Okay, love you guys. Hopefully I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
good night.
Night.
Good night, guys. Love you, Lori.
Love you
you,
too,
Shaya.
Brian. Love you, Haya.
Thank you.